tuned in to Teng Tools Muscle Garage, the home of New Zealand's toughest muscle cars, hot rods and street machines. Proudly brought to you by Teng Tools in association with Mountshop, Maguire's and Niedercar. This week, something a bit different. Welcome to our Chevy special, where we check out some of New Zealand's best to wear the bow tie. Arguably the best-known mark of the General Motors company, Chevrolet was founded in 1911, a working man's car. It was the Chev that was to lead General Motors' fight back against Ford's Model T, a fight they'd eventually win, with Chevrolet overtaking Ford as the best-selling car in America by 1929. It would be hard to overstate Chevrolet's impact on our hobby today. Sure, Ford might have captured the hearts and minds of our early hot rodding fraternity, but chances are, if you lift the hood sides on one, you might just find it's a Chevy small block doing the business. From those early bodies onwards, it's safe to say Chevy has stamped its place on our automotive landscape emphatically, and we Kiwis need only to look to our US mates for inspiration. We throw them down the quarter and round the country's racetracks in popular series like Central Muscle Cars. We cruise them in all forms as well, of course, but they've found their place too at distinctly Southern Hemisphere type activities like the torture test of the Burnout Pack. Right-hand drive variants were sold new locally. They're now sought after for that very reason. But there's little doubt a big chunk of Chevrolet's appeal is in its poster car status for the all-American culture. But when you're talking culture combined with Chev's early offerings, well, that leads us to perhaps one of New Zealand's most interesting auto niches, the lowrider. Lowriding's spiritual home is in the LA streets, and more often than not, under all that custom paint and height-adjustable suspension, you'll find a Chevrolet.
People, I think they appreciate it. Low, slow, it's something different. It's not your typical hot rod, T-bucket, roadster, whatever. They don't expect it. The scene's growing, and that's where things are starting to head. People are getting more into it.
Because lowriding's so small in New Zealand, people all are always looking at us and seeing what we do, and we try and put a real positive vibe to it. Because you see things like on TV, lowriding's portrayed as being gangster and, guns and drugs. So yeah, we try to put a positive vibe on it, real family sort of vibe. Yeah, just have a real good time doing it.
Early Chevrolets might form the building blocks of the lowrider culture, but it's remained the go-to mark for decade after decade since, even claiming the odd muscle car as one of their own. A 50 Chevy coupe would make a fine bomb or lowrider too. Ian Rainbow, however, was having none of that.
It must have been early 90s. I bought a personalised plate that said Easy 11s. And I'm back in the 90s, early 90s, 11-second street car was pretty quick. Got the plate, ready to go. Originally, I wanted to put a 409 in it. She runs fine, my 409. So I bought a couple of 409s out of the States. And when the chassis turned up from Art Morrison, it looked too state-of-the-art. I couldn't put a dirty old well, not that they're dirty, but I couldn't put a 409 in the chassis. It just didn't seem fitting enough. So my very good friend Richard Adlington said that, you should look at these new 572s they're building now. So the rest is history. So that's the way it went. Apart from the fact the first time we took it to the drags, which was the day after it got its first warrant, took the street tyres off it, put the Hoosier QuickTime Pro slicks or cheetah slicks on the back, pulled in a BP Papakura on the motorway, filled it with the best pump gas you could get, went to the drags and it ran a 10.9. So we couldn't use my 11-second plate anymore, could we? I wasn't disappointed, of course, but I didn't think it'd go that fast. So anyway, it's got faster.
Yep, this street legal beast is now good for a lazy 9-second quarter. For something with a warrant on the windscreen, it's no slouch. And it's in good company, making the ranks of NZV8's quickest street cars, a list with more than a few heavy hitters. The top slot belongs to Mr. Reese Fish and his 7-second 56.
Yeah, it's a fast street car. If it was taken off the street, then it's just a slow race car, basically. Race cars are 6 seconds and quicker. That's just how I view it. Let's face it doesn't see a lot of street miles, but the point is, it is street legal. You can drive it on the street if I want to. That's what it's all about, That's what makes this car what it is. It's a 1956 Chevy. It runs a twin turbo, all aluminium, basically a custom engine that I designed with Mike Moran over in America. 532 cubic inches. We've done a 738 at 194 mile an hour at Masterton that was run, but yeah, we're at Mary we're not far behind it. We've done, I think, a 74 here. The car was supercharged. I was going to put a Pro Charger on the car, and we spoke to a few people in America. Back then it was fairly new for V8s to have turbos on them, over here anyway. So we went down that road, and really it exceeded our expectations, you know. First time out, I think we ran an 8.5 in the car, which we were like, wow, we didn't expect that. But yeah, I mean, it's gradually just grown from there, you know. It's an addictive bug. You get on it and you just keep going, basically. It's not rocket science. You put enough horsepower in a car, enough tyre on it, and it's light enough, it'll go quick, you know. Lots of guys are playing with the turbos now, and you know, cars are coming along that you know, we'll run with it at some point, you know. So
The Tri-5s marked a golden patch for Chevrolet. They might not all be as quick as Reese's, but New Zealand is well stocked for top shelf examples from 55, 56 and 57. But just because they're popular doesn't mean you can't find a way to do something just a bit different.
It's really good when a customer comes in and they say, I want this particular thing, and they don't want to waver from it. Tash is one of those people that knows exactly what she wants.
And for Tash and husband Todd, nothing less than Chevrolet's iconic 55 Nomad would do. It was about then when Kendall discovered just how rare this one-year model was.
So I rang him back and I said, you sure you want a 55 Nomad? You know, you can get a 56 or a 57 and a little bit cheaper and a little bit easier to find. No, 55 Nomad is what they wanted. So we found one, went through all the process, and that's how the build started. We got into the fact of, let's change the colour, let's put some suspension in it, let's put an LS in it, let's go with the new interior, so on and so on. And it just grew and grew and grew to what you see now. Well, the benefits from going late model into the likes of an LS and 4L65 transmission, which is in this one, is the complete drivability. You can go out after 6 months and turn the key and start it and back out the driveway just like you do with your late model car. They sound the same, they're more economical, the horsepower is greater, they are the future.
With the late 50s came the Fins. Space race-inspired designs hit the production line, and they were wild across most automakers, 59 marking some of the more outrageous lines in history. Think the imposing fins of the Caddy, or in Chevy's case, the Impala. Like their embellishments, the vehicles had also grown in size and stature. The Impala ushering in a line of full-size Chevs which would become the hallmark of much of the 60s.
The car was going to be just an average car, throw the kids in, throw the dog in and go cruising, but one weekend we got carried away, tidying it up, stripping it back and pulling it apart and stuff like that, and it just snowballed from there. Once you get one nice part, you got to get a next nice part, and so it just got bigger and bigger. It's a factory 348, factory black car, so why not go the whole hog on it? When I found the car, I didn't realise what the motor was. I'd never really seen one before. So I rang the old man and said, it's got this random engine and I'll take some photos and I'll send them to you. And he was like, that's a 348. That's a car that you really want to get because they are pretty rare. And he made the motor from 58 to 60, late 61, and then they went to the 409. Pretty special to find a factory 348 black car, you know, they are pretty rare. It's got Ross Forge 10-to-1 pistons in it. It's got Doug's tri-wire headers, tri-power, SE cam, Muncie 4-speed in it because it was a factory 3-speed on the tree. Got disc brakes, 13-inch standard type disc brake for it, 2-inch drop spindles, AccuAir VU4 valve block for the airbags. Everything's just been tinkered with. All the nuts and bolts have all been either changed or recoated with nickel coating and stuff like that. So it's all back to pretty much factory, but modified. Going with the style of the car it is, it's nice and low. We called it a grim, and a grim doesn't roll around in pretty little shoes and stuff like that. So I thought the NASCAR rims was more fitting for his stance, you know, low, mean, and angry. I love driving it and I love getting out and amongst it. The undercarriage isn't shiny like most show cars. It's practical for driving, you know, it's not super shiny that I have to worry about it. Don't worry about stone chips underneath. Worry about the stone chips on top, but not underneath.
Amazing results, even at full sight.
You're back with Teng Tools Muscle Garage, the home of New Zealand's toughest muscle cars, hot rods and street machines. Proudly brought to you by Teng Tools in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Niedercar. Thanks for tuning into our Chevy special. Yep, we're doing things a bit different this week, bringing you New Zealand's best that wear the bowtie badge. Chevrolet may have spoiled us with choice up to the mid-60s already, but come the muscle car era, they went all in. And they had to, with Ford's pony car blazing the way in new car sales. While the Corvette might have been dubbed more of a sports car in its styling, the mid-size Camaro had the brawn, boasting an options list that made for exciting reading. But there was another, larger and earlier introduced Chevy muscle car, one that in New Zealand managed to slip under the radar for a while.
The Chevelles were just that little bit different, you know, and that's really what I was looking for.
I had seen them, but no, not so much on my radar. I like the 67, 68, 69 Camaro. I found that there seems to be quite a few of them in New Zealand, a lot more than what I realised once I started looking, and then I thought, hang on, I want something a little bit different, a little bit more unique.
It was the muscle car in USA, but in New Zealand, people just knew basically two genres of cars. One was a Camaro, one was a Mustang. And people are starting to pick up on that, and that's why the Chevelle community in New Zealand is growing quite quickly. And there's some pretty big engines going into some of them.
If you're looking for, you know, the long, slim, wide type product, you know, your 66, 67s are, you know, mean as. But if you're looking for a real nice coupe that's a little bit shorter, a little bit stockier than your later models. And then when you got all your El Caminos, which are all sort of around a similar sort of era, there's a big fancy ute with a big block engine in them.
I've always been into the fast street car thing. In the mid-90s, there was, in America, it was big. They had the fastest American street car gig. I built up a Capri that ended up doing mid-9s. Drive down there, drive home. You had 350 cubic inches. If you made, you know, 1.5 horsepower per cubic inch, that was a pretty tough little 350. So if you do the figures on 600 cubic inches, you got 900 horsepower. Add the nitrous into the mix, the numbers go from there, you know. The power thing it can ruin your mind. It's just the thrill of it, you know, get a taste of it and you just want more. Had built a couple of big blocks for friends of mine and I thought, well, they were 454s and 440s. let's go big, you know. 598 or 600 cubic inches is a smidgen under 10 litres of engine size. It's just old school raw horsepower, no turbos, no magic wizardry, it's just good old horsepower. Progressed to transmission, did the rear end, modified the rear chassis, built the diff. The internet, you're looking at it, your mind just goes nuts. You know, you think I can do that, and then so-and-so, my mate, he can do that and help me with that. Next thing, you're building stuff and you're pulling stuff apart and you're modifying everything you touch, because the last thing you touch, oh, it's got to be better than that. And then next thing it's, yeah, it goes nuts again, you know. So.
Just that coupe looking, you know, and they're not really common here. Like, I've had quite a few Camaros. Everyone has Camaros, you know, and I just wanted to be a little bit point of difference, and the Chevelles just really grew on me. I needed something for beach hop, and we thought we'd look at it. We ended up buying it. We only had exactly 8 weeks till the day, so hence the deadline. It's got the stance, it's got the sort of modern interior, modern dash, LS, you know, it's running a 4-link in the rear. It's kind of like down that way of, you know, Pro Touring, and it's got that sort of, you know, that look with LED lights, and it is definitely that Pro Touring look, you know. The car was built to be driven. I'm just not a fan of trailers. I believe trailers with boats, or unless your car's broken down. So yes, she's no trailer queen, built to be driven.
While we may have been slow starters on the Chevelle, the same couldn't be said for the iconic Camaro. And when you look at the first gen, it's little wonder. In New Zealand, they fill the ranks of central muscle cars and the staging lanes of Meri Meri Dragway. They've filled the pages of NZ V8 since day dot two, and the builds have only become more extreme. Auckland's International Motorsport have had their hand in a couple of bar races. This carbon fibre clad supercharged LS9 powered 69, and later, Lou Picton's nasty 69. The Camaro is a car that certainly lends itself to a pro touring style. But if old school muscle is more your thing, then it's hard to go past Dan's. Formerly an 8-second animal of a drag car, the Gen 1 only makes small compromises in street form, running a 454 big block and 671 supercharger.
Yeah, it's always been my dream car. I love the shape, always have. The first generations sort of appealed to me more. They're just one-offs. You can't buy this in a showroom. You'd never see it in a car yard. You know, there's a lot of love being put into it. Running about 540 horsepower at the wheels. It could be turned up as such a supercharger, and it could be boosted a lot more. But I wanted a street car. Stop thinking about anything else when you're driving it. Mainly because you got to concentrate on what you're doing. I find it relaxing, always have, just jumping in the car and just going for a spin, and it makes me forget about work and, yeah, get into the groove and just love it, yeah.
It was a childhood dream car, I guess, yeah. I was about 3rd form or 4th form at school, and I wanted one of those Camaros with the covered in headlights.
Caton's 68 adopts more of a new school approach, one that's hard to miss with its high-mounted twin turbos. They force-feed a 468 cube big block.
I thought it was going to be easy, but there was a lot of work, and the headers had to be custom made, and then all the plumbing and everything else that goes with it, and all the extra piping, and there was a lot. Because it has the hideaway headlights, when the headlight covers are open, there was no room to put the turbos down the bottom where you put them down where you usually want them. So the intercoolers had to kind of go in the middle, and then, yeah, and we didn't have room to put the turbos down low, so we thought, oh, we'll throw them out the bonnet then. Yeah, it's a bit of an art piece. You know, once it starts boosting away, usually you run out of road, but it certainly wants to go. You always want it to look different to all the other ones out there, and you know, because of what we do for work, we want it to be seen. It's our biggest marketing tool. We just try to keep it that little point of difference and make it so it's not like every other one out there. Something that I've loved from being a teenager right the way through, and I can't see it slowing down anytime soon. You know, I want to do things better and make things faster and just keep making cool stuff.
While Chevrolet have given us its share of icons, cars that play a leading role of the muscle car and street machine hobby worldwide, perhaps still their greatest claim to fame is the one nestled under the hood. Production of the small block Chev roared into life in '54 in readiness for the '55 models. And while the motor was officially discontinued in 2003, they still remain available new today in crate motor form. In excess of a staggering 100 million small blocks were built, and they truly became a staple of the hobby, finding their way into pretty much everything, regardless of the badge on the grille. A tough act to follow, but Chevrolet found a worthy successor in the form of the LS, which picked up right where the small block left off. They're found lurking standard in retro-styled remakes like the newer Camaros, themselves ushering in a new wave of muscle car fans. A more refined choice that will still get you in the gate at many an American car show here in New Zealand. And with a 2020 Corvette reimagined as a mid-engine V8 sports car, you can be sure Chevrolet will be winning more fans in the years to come. Us, well, we're still pretty sold on last century's lineup. Teng Tools Muscle Garage was proudly brought to you by Teng Tools. Get organised. Mount Shop, undercar specialists. Maguire's, people who love cars love Maguire's. And Need a Car, the easy way to research and buy cars online.